Hello, my friends. We are live together. Wonderful. If for anyone that's already on for a little tech check, would you simply type into the chat that you can hear me and you can see me well? That would be great. I'm going to take a little inhalation of some nice sweet orange here. Okay. Okay, andiamo, as they say. Let's go. This is great, Leah. I'm glad you're here. This is Know Your Creator Type. Position this well. This is the Know Your Creator Type series, and we are on the Activist Part 2. If you missed Part 1, check it out later, but stay with now because there's a lot of other interesting and complementary content to what we covered in Part 1. And I'm going to do a very brief review. You ready? First of all, I love giant boards when I'm getting everything out. This is a total like activist type process. Activists, the activist inside of us needs to see things in a big, broad way. Like mind maps are really good for the activist creator type inside of us. And it's important to be able to be creative and put things outside of the box. A lot of times, like this is actually fairly neat for me. Usually I'm writing in all different kinds of angles all over the page. So, can you dedicate this next 15 minutes of us being together? Let go of distractions, be here fully right now. You will get so much more out of it. You will actually feel nourished from the time together, and the information that's delivered will be with you. It will stay with you. If you're an essential oil lover and you feel like you want to grab or have around the oils that I'm going to speak about today, these are the ones that I'm going to briefly be speaking on. Blue tansy, did you know? Of course, blue tansy with activist. Laurel, a little bit on black spruce, marjoram, cedarwood. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so quiz for you. See how much you remember. Which direction on the medicine wheel and which element is associated with the activist? If you want, you can put it in the chat. Which element is associated with the activist and which direction on the medicine wheel and which season? Give you a minute to think about those for yourself. And now I'm going to tell you the answer. The element is wood element. The season is spring season. And the direction on the medicine wheel is the east. The sun rises in the east. The east is connected to springtime. The east is connected to new birth, the creativity of new birth, the freshness. These are all directly connected to the activist creator type within you. So if you just feel that quality of energy in your experience right now, that quality where you get a new idea, a fresh idea, a different perspective, you're going to do it like this. Say for a while you've had this desire, you want to create something in particular, but you're not sure how it's all going to fit together. You keep hitting these bumps or these roadblocks. And then all of a sudden, in some timeless moment, it's like something pops, everything connects, perspective opens, and you have the idea in its full form. That is part of the magic of the activist. So let's review, speaking of magic. There's 5 different key themes that we look at for each of the 5 creator types. And I'm going to do a whole review and create a nice PDF for you that you can have at the end too, okay? So for the activist, the magic of the activist, the magic is disruptor, to be disruptive. I'm going to say more about that today because it's very important. And it's often where we can unintentionally stunt our creativity, our inner activist, by being afraid on some level to be a disruptor. The superpower is perspective. This is the superpower and the medicine of the activist. The kryptonite is fighting or getting stuck in a right wrong polarity inside of yourself or with someone else. The theme is creative vision or the creative visionary. And the hack for the activist, do you remember? It's my favorite hack of all of them. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it and create now. Do it. Taking emergent action is the zone of the activist. Okay, so a couple things for context as we go into this content today. The current, I think probably the best word would be meme, but we could also say archetype. The current archetype or meme of the activist within culture is is I'm oversimplifying here, but to make a point. The current meme or the archetype of the activist is somebody who gets angry at injustice, wants to fight against injustice. They try and they effort and they try and they effort, and they end up oftentimes angry, exhausted, cynical, hopeless, or all of the above. I have many clients who either work in the nonprofit sector or did, and they consider them recovering from working in the nonprofit sector. And all of them tell me a similar story of well meaning, sensitive souls who have an activist spirit who get involved with wanting to create change and then end up like this, either angry, exhausted, frustrated, cynical, hopeless, or all the above. So there has to be another way to do it. There has to be another way to do it. And that's part of what we're going to look at today is how can you cultivate healthy activist energy in you without unintentionally burning yourself out or contributing to your cynicism. The world needs your light, your hope, your ability to see what's possible. If you get shrouded in layers of cynicism because you've been fighting and trying and it didn't work how you thought it was going to work, uh, it takes you out of the game. We need you in the game, in the game. Okay. So let your irritation and frustration for any matter of injustice or inequality, anything that really gets you, you know, let your irritation and frustration channel into creativity and dynamically move with perspective. Remember, perspective is the superpower of the activist. Create always connected to your desire. If you start moving out of your desire and into the desire of other people, or if it's just the desire of how you want to be seen in order to feel safe, it's not your true heart and soul's desires, then you will end up in that cycle of pushing, 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 and not being able to receive back what you truly want. So create connected to your desire, be willing to be flexible and dynamic through the superpower of perspective, and allow the reach here. This is really important for activists. This isn't, I want you to feel it in your body with me right now. Part of the movement for all of us with activating healthy activist energy is to tune into that energy that moves up and out like a plant out of the ground in the springtime. So right now, if you just feel that energy in your being, because it's there right now, that moves up, 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 up. And it has this expression of moving out. I'm doing it right now as I'm expressing. Yeah. So you want to uh, lead more with this natural lift of authentic expression than with your push. Now, sometimes, of course, as we're in our activist energy and with activists, creator types, there is a push that's needed, just like when that little shoot is pushing out of the ground. And If we stay in the push because we've lost perspective and we're just pushing and we're angry and we're irritated, blah, 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 then that's when we exhaust ourselves and burn ourselves out. So feel that interplay of mainly leading with that. And even when you're pushing, there's a qualitative difference when you're pushing while you're actually pushing in a kind of flow because you're being led, you're being pulled up by the sunlight of the spirit. You're being pulled by the sunlight of the spirit, and you're like, yes, I can do this. Yes, here it comes. There's a little bit of a push, but it's like you have the force of the universe behind you because you are that plant growing into yourself versus like, uh, uh, tiring yourself out. That's actually how I operated in my entrepreneurial endeavors for many years. And I did actually completely burn myself out. And I did actually end up completely cynical about what was possible and about other human beings. Thank God that we can recover from that. And part of these things that I'm about to share with you about what the activist needs to thrive are also practices that help to heal or transmute where you may have any energy of cynicism, of burnout, perhaps even of bitterness for trying and it not happening in the way that you wanted it to. Ready? Okay. Quick review of when the activist is off, because this will make it really personal for you. You'll be able to feel it. When the activist energy in us is off as creative beings, we feel stuck. We feel stymied. We have writer's block. We feel like we can't do the thing that we want to do. We sit there staring at a computer or we're endlessly distracting ourselves because we feel stuck. By the way, if we're endlessly distracting ourselves, that might be a bit of the alchemist off, the water element piece. But the actual experience of being stuck when we want to move forward creatively is very connected to the activist energy being off. Also, the activists, when they're off, they can feel angry, frustrated, resentful, passive aggressive, or hopeless, discouraged, depressed, vision stunted growth, conflict avoidant, stubborn, fixed mindset, lacking perspective, afraid to be wrong, afraid to take creative action leaps. When the activist within us is on, we are an expression of creative visionary. We have fluidity with perspective. We have fresh ideas, growth, expansion, and depth. We dream big and then we act on it seamlessly. We have commitment to the vision for its sake. We are a powerful creative manifester. We're strong and direct. We're unafraid of conflict or anger. That's healthy activist energy. Okay, this last piece, this is the juicy bit for today. What the activist inside of us needs to thrive. You ready? Can you already guess? I have 4 different categories we're going to go into. You might want to take notes, okay? This isn't going to be in the PDF that I send to you. There's 4 different categories. One is permissions, one is tools, one is actions, and one is avoids. The activist within us needs permissions to get it wrong, permissions to be messy. When the activist gets caught in an unproductive polarity of like right and wrong, if I do this, I'm going to be wrong. If I take this risk, it's going to be a disaster. I don't want to be wrong. Right? Give yourself permissions to get it wrong over and over and over again. This will so nourish your capacity as an activist. Permissions to release the fight. Permissions to release the struggle. Permissions to release the defensiveness. And permissions to be disruptive. Because activist energy within us and activist awareness is attuned or tuning into where there is hypocrisy, where there is injustice, where there is unfairness, By the way, it reminds me of one of my mentors. He said something in a seminar that really blew my mind. He said, "What makes you think that life is supposed to be fair?" And I thought, whoa. I mean, I so was driven on this operating principle that it should be fair. And if it's not fair, there's something wrong. And then he said, "Is it fair when a mouse gets eaten by a bird of prey? Is it fair?" He just gave all these examples in nature that are seemingly sort of violent and unfair depending on which creature you are. And I really realized it put fairness in a different perspective for me. So keep that in mind here, to your activist in particular. There are within these permissions specific oils that go with each of these, and I'm going to mention them here. If you want to explore deeper about why and how these oils work in each of these categories, please check out my Healing Oil Collective journey, and I'll include a link in the show notes for you. So, permissions to get it wrong. Blue tansy can be so helpful for this because it helps us to go with the flow and enter into play again. There's a point on the foot called liver 3, and I love to put diluted blue tansy on acupoint liver 3 for helping me and my patients, my clients, to go with the flow when they feel trapped in that right wrong polarity, or if they're angry at someone else about a right wrong polarity. To release the fight, again, blue tansy and also marjoram. Marjoram is exceptional for releasing unproductive resistance, tightening in our jaw, clenching, holding of our shoulders, clenching of our hips. Marjoram will help to release and soften all of that unproductive body armoring so that we can show up present, naturally protected, naturally defended, not inflammatorily defended or protected, naturally so, like a tree. Marjoram, I like to put right here. If you're an acupuncturist, gallbladder 34 on the leg. To release the struggle, laurel, laurel essential oil, the victorious one, excellent for releasing the struggle because laurel instantly, I have mine right here, laurel instantly reminds our nervous system and our psyche that we are victorious. We are victorious for existing. And oftentimes at the root of our struggle is some kind of thought form that we're not doing good enough. We should have done it better, or we got it wrong, or if you woulda, if was that shoulda, woulda, coulda yourself. Laurel, I like to put right on the top of the head here. You can also do a drop in your hands, cupped hand inhalation to remind your whole being that you are victorious for existing, to remind you of all that you've been through and all that you've accomplished by being you, by showing up, by waking up. And to be disruptive. So oftentimes I find that in order to gather the centered strength to be disruptive and say, no, stop, or I disagree, to interrupt something, to take a stand. For a lot of people, that is one of the most terrifying things that they can think of. And yet, if they don't learn how to be disruptive, they are stifling their activist energy. So it's important. I mean, some people are naturally more disruptive than others. Um, and all of us can learn to develop it. So, to be a disruptor, what I recommend is really centering in your core, and you can do that with cedar wood. And you can put cedar wood a couple of inches below your belly button on CV6 and hold it there with light touch, aroma point style. Gather up your chi and your energy, and then from there, you can, from a centered place, speak, express. You can also add blue tansy here for opening up the throat chakra. Okay, the tools. Byron Katie, you might know of her. She wrote a book called Loving What Is, and she has a process that is referred to as the work. And it's a process of basically flipping your thought forms that are causing you stress and strain upside down. And basically, you check it out if you feel interested. But in a nutshell, what you do is you ask yourself if that you verbalize, you express that thing that's stressful, and then you ask, is it true? And of course, you'll say, well, it feels like it's true. And you say, can I actually know that this is true? And then you can take that statement and flip it upside down and see how often an upside down statement is potentially equally as true as the one that you've been thinking that's causing you all kinds of stress. Getting out of the right wrong polarity with the oils, breath work, exercise, dance. The activist energy in us needs to move your big muscles, go out for a walk, go out for a bike ride. Do not try to fight yourself out of your tension. It will only cause more tension. Go move your body, put on a great song, jump on a trampoline, do a jump rope, do some push ups. Actions, actions category. Slow down, take stock, zoom back. Oftentimes, when we're really stressed out, it's because we're zooming in on a micro thing. And if we just stop and zoom back, open up perspective, everything relaxes. Move, I already talked about that. Eating green things, greens powder, sprouts, little shoots from the ground, asparagus, kale, these kinds of things really strengthen the liver and strengthen the activist energy. And last thing, this is the avoids. Drugs and alcohol directly inhibit the activist energy by inhibiting wood element and the liver. And so if you're going to partake in drugs and alcohol, do it with moderation. Uh, don't do it every night. Give yourself a break. Learn how to open up your perspective without substances. Use oils instead. Move your body instead. Make love instead. Do things that actually expand yourself and create more bliss and open perspective. Get you out of your. Avoid eating too late. This inhibits the activist energy. And one of the main dynamics within the psyche and that we can have with other people that inhibit activist energy is the savior, victim, victimizer triangle. This is a much bigger conversation. Maybe I'll make a separate YouTube video on that. Let me know in the comments if you want that. But basically, when we enter into any part of that, if we enter into the victim role, we're going to end up victimizing someone else. If we want to be the savior, we're going to end up feeling like a victim, and then we're going to end up victimizing someone else. So these engender each other. And we cannot access true perspective and the power of the activist when we're acting out of this triangle. Okay, everyone, that's it. And I have to go because I'm getting ready to get on my webinar for people in service-based industries and soulful entrepreneurs on how to diversify your revenue streams for this world in which we are living in today. This is important. If you didn't know about it and you didn't sign up, you can go to my Instagram account and click on the link in the link tree, and you can sign up for it. It would probably be a little bit too late to get the link for me going live right now, but you can get the recordings if you register through IG. Okay. I can't wait to see you next week. And next week is the priestess. See you there.